Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. All Upper Dauphin Area School District public board meetings will be electronically recorded, and that recording will be used in part to create the minutes. Tonight's meeting is a joint special meeting with the Millersburg Area School District and the Upper Dauphin Area School District Board of Directors. If you all would please rise for a pledge of allegiance and a brief moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Mrs. Arts, would you please take roll for Millersburg, please? Ms. Bateman, would you please do roll call for Upper Dauphin, please?
David Barber. Here. Bryce Wellington.
Here.
Bill Stewart. Here. Brian Henninger. Jeff Lonslinger. Catherine Colwell. Stephen Wilker. Kurt Wenrich. Here. Heather Williams-Reed. Here.
Just want to make a statement that Mr. Welker is at home listening. He is quarantining, so unable to be here this evening. Again, welcome everybody, and thank you for coming out tonight. Appreciate your time. Thank you for folks watching. Thank you, administration, fellow board members, public, press, elected officials for coming out tonight. Just a quick recap of why we're here tonight. On October 9th, 2018, both Upper Dauphin Area and Millersburg Area School Districts approved an extracurricular sports cooperative. As an extension from that sports cooperative, it was suggested the administration explore the potential merger of the two school districts. Therefore, April 2019, the school district received a grant money to pursue the feasibility study that conducted and authored by the Pennsylvania Economy League. This material was presented in two phases to both the communities and the school board directors. This evening's meeting is specifically convened for the members of the public to voice their comments and questions regarding the potential merger between the school districts in Upper Dauphin area based on the phase 1 and phase 2 of the feasibility studies. Subsequent to this evening's meeting, there will be another joint meeting on Monday, March 15th, 7 p.m. at the Millersburg Area High School Auditorium. At that meeting, the joint boards will vote on option 5 to merge the Millersburg Area School District and the Upper Dauphin Area School District. Many thanks to all in attendance and those listening at home, board members, administration, members of the public, and press. The Upper Dauphin Area High School staff to prepare this location and broadcast this meeting. I thank you, TNN, for all your hard work and dedication to this. For public comment, the instructions, the way this is going to work this evening. We did solicit, you could either come here this evening to state your comment or ask your question. We also allowed you to submit your question, comment via email to the respective districts. We do have a couple of those submissions. They will be read first. They'll be read by the administration of each district. After that, members of the public will be then invited to step up to the mic and state their question and or comment. The school board will work with the administration to craft an FAQ to be published next week, which should answer any question we may be unable to answer this evening. Please remember, board policy. You have 5 minutes for public comment. We have a very good showing this evening. Please be respectful of others' time so everyone has an opportunity to state their question. So with that being said, I believe we're starting with Mrs. Arts to read the submitted questions.
This letter starts, I would like to express my support for the vote to merge the Millersburg area and Upper Dauphin school districts. Option 5 is the best option for both districts. We need each other to continue to provide a high level of education for the students of both districts. That is from Chris Dietz. I would like to thank the members of the Millersburg and Upper Dauphin school boards for working together to study this potential merger. As a CPA and someone who has worked with nonprofit mergers, I appreciate the complexity of what you are working through. I also know that there is a tremendous amount of pressure to maintain the status quo and how difficult it is to pursue change, especially within government. From reading all of the material made available, it seems like a merger of our districts would be the best solution to reduce costs and enhance educational opportunities for the residents in the long term. I hope you will vote yes on the merger and look forward to the positive outcomes it will bring for Northern Dauphin County. Thank you for your service, Alex Reber. The next letter starts, first and foremost, we would like to extend our gratitude for the time invested by the boards to review and analyze the prospects of merging the Millersburg and Upper Dauphin school districts. We understand and appreciate the hours of work dedicated to this process. Up until this point, we have made the conscious decision to refrain from being an active voice in this process. However, as we drew closer to this key milestone, we felt inclined to communicate our opinions and perspectives as parents and members of this community. We have taken the time to review all of the information and studies conducted by the Pennsylvania Economy League, and we have several major concerns with option 5 detailed within this report. We attempted to review option 5 holistically in an order to understand the costs and benefits of this option to both our communities and our student bodies. Through these lenses, we developed several key concerns which are highlighted below based upon information and data we have found through independent research. Adverse economic effect. The lack of a local elementary school would have adverse effects to the Millersburg community as a whole, considering the following two facts. Studies have found smaller towns lacking a local elementary school decreases the attractiveness of the entire area to current and potential residents. According to a study published in the Journal of Agriculture and Applied Economics, homes that are located within close proximity to schools possess stronger property values, whereas those that are farther away have lower property values. The median property value of Millersburg is currently $99,100, which is 50% less than the average median property value of Pennsylvania, which is $200,000. Removing the presence of a local elementary school would most likely decrease our property values while also making our community less resistant to volatilities in the housing market. Adverse school and community dynamics. Community involvement is an integral component to student and school success. It is a well-researched fact that a positive school and home connection promotes learning. Moving the elementary school out of Millersburg, as suggested in option 5, would hinder community and parental involvement for the students residing within the Millersburg community. Ensuring a positive atmosphere and experience during a student's introduction to a school is immensely important during this impressionable first years of learning. We believe that having an elementary school within the Millersburg community is a non-negotiable component of any merger discussion. Class sizes. According to the documents detailing option 5, class sizes across the entire student body would increase. While this trend isn't a concern in some grade levels, the presence of larger class sizes at the lower grade levels is not ideal. Findings from numerous studies, including Glass and Smith's class size research from 1978 and Tennessee's Project Star, conducted in the mid-1980s, conclude smaller class sizes result in higher test scores, produce fewer dropouts, and level the playing field for minorities and children living in poverty. More recent research indicates that the benefits of being taught in smaller classes persist long after students have moved on to the next grade. They become more likely to complete high school and go to college, and less likely to make the life-altering decisions in their teens, to name some of the most compelling examples. We understand that option 5 would make our class sizes comparable to other districts within central Pennsylvania. However, this comparison doesn't equate to best practice. Curriculum concerns. One would assume that a significant increase in school offering and curriculum would mirror a merged school district. Unfortunately, this doesn't appear to be the case in option 5. The information and data presented in conjunction to option 5 detailed minor curriculum changes. However, these updates don't balance the costs of merging, in our opinion. Adding a few elective courses doesn't outweigh cost of increased class sizes and longer commute times for our youngest students. It is important to note that we are not opposed to merging with Upper Dauphin School District in the future. We understand data trends in enrollment and other categories are driving this discussion, but we don't see the value in selecting the lowest cost, technically acceptable solution. Ultimately, we have the responsibility of posturing our children and the community for success, and option 5 does not meet these lofty requirements. We should be approaching this merger from a holistic approach and developing a solution and strategy that postures students from both Millersburg and Upper Dauphin for short and long-term success. Far too often, we don't possess the luxury of time in making a decision. This is not the case with this particular situation. We are recommending to take advantage of this opportunity to observe and learn over the next few years. Instead of making a hasty decision, let's observe the qualitative and quantitative data of merging our sports teams and develop a solution based upon real-world facts and observations over projections and trends. Therefore, we recommend voting no to option 5, but continuing to grow and advance the relationship between both school districts over the next few years. Then, leveraging this relationship and equipped with real-world data, revisit this discussion with a collective understanding and shared vision for the future. In closing, we would like to thank the Millersburg and Upper Dauphin board members for the platform to share our outlook on option 5. We appreciate the opportunity to share our voice with you and the community as a whole. God bless. Josh and Ashley Eggleston. Thank you so much. Below are my thoughts on this matter. To the school board making a decision that will affect our beloved children. I am writing as a mother of a Lincolnville student, previous graduate of Millersburg Area School District, and as someone who completed their student teaching at Lincolnville Elementary. First of all, let me just tell you how much I love this school district. I moved here from another school in 3rd grade, and it was difficult, but my amazing teacher, Mrs. Hand, helped me and made me feel so loved and welcomed. That is something that has stood true throughout my education at Millersburg and now my son's education. The quality of the teachers. They are amazing and they work together so well. They show a true knowledge of all students and demonstrate a mutual love and respect for everyone. I love walking down the hallway with my son and hearing so many teachers greet him by name. I've also spent some time in the special education room as an aide after I graduated college, and I was so overcome with joy seeing how many teachers went out of their way to welcome these students as well. This isn't something you find in larger school districts. I now teach in Harrisburg, and I guarantee you Millersburg is one of a kind. This brings me to my next concern, class size. I enjoy the small class size, and I know my son does as well. He has a physical disability. While it doesn't affect him cognitively, it affects him emotionally and socially. I feel emotional intelligence is just as important as grades, especially in elementary school. My son is thriving because he has a small class size. He has grown up with these children, and everyone is aware that he wears a brace and he flaps his hands when he is excited. They don't say anything about it, it's just him. I fear what will happen when he has to meet new children from a new area and be surrounded by so many more at one time. Let's be honest, it will feel like our children are entering their territory and vice versa for middle school, and it could cause problems. In a time when our children's mental health is being truly compromised and tested, I feel merging our school districts is definitely the wrong choice. I know that something has to be done for financial reasons. I understand that. But isn't there another choice that doesn't jeopardize the emotional, social, and educational goals of our children? Our community is strong, and we've come together before to raise money. I've talked to a lot of other parents that feel the same as I do. We do not want this merger. Many of my friends I grew up with right here in Millersburg chose to buy a house here and raise a family here because of the experience and impact the school and community has had on our lives. We enjoyed our community, traditions, and education, and we want the same for our children. We chose Millersburg. We didn't choose Upper Dauphin. Thank you for your time and consideration. Bobby Scheidler, Hoover. And the last communication. I have a special request before you vote on option 5 on March the 15th. I would like to invite you to visit the Lankerville Elementary School and walk through the hallways during school hours to see what goes on in our school. The teachers put their hearts and souls into educating their students and have completely invested themselves in this district. All of the children have a close relationship with their teachers and really thrive in a small classroom setting. An elementary school really is the heartbeat of a community. When you take that away, you change the whole dynamic of that community. Young families flock to areas where there are elementary schools, which allow a community to thrive. When you take that away, you take away the heartbeat that keeps the community alive. It's often easy to make financial decisions when you don't have to face the people with whom your decisions affect. Sometimes what is most feasible isn't always the best choice when it comes to investing in our children's future and the future of our community. I would love to see our elementary school become bigger, better, and stronger in Lankerville or at the current Millersburg Middle and High School. Let's not give up on our teachers, our children, and our community. Thank you for your time. Dawn Huffman.
Mrs. Arts, thank you. Upper Dauphin has no electronically submitted written items. So that moves us on to our next part of this evening's meeting, time for public comment. Again, the ground rules are, please remember 5 minutes is your time limit to state your comment. When you do step up to the microphone over here, state your name, the school district that you currently reside in, and the municipality, please, and then begin your comment and question. Please don't gather up there one at a time. Thank you.
My name is Kylie Bender. I am an Upper Dauphin resident, and I have a child in elementary and middle school. I have 3 quick points. 1, I understand the study has been done and we've had to review it. We're in the middle of a pandemic where our students are failing, they are struggling just to get through each day. These meetings would be so much more useful to spend time prepping and making adjustments to make our kids succeed. They should be first, not a merger. I think there's plenty of time to hold off on that. Number two, if the merger discussion is serious, which I truly hope everybody's taking it very seriously, why did we not come together before this school year and say, remote is our future. We need to be on one page for remote. We're on two different pages. Tech is our future. We need to be on one page for tech. We're on two different pages. Last year I sat in the middle school auditorium listening to why option 3 was not a good option because of having to do work to the middle school, to the Millersburg school. They didn't want to invest money in tiny potties and sinks for elementary students. But now if we merge, we're going to have to invest tens of thousands of dollars to match technology-wise. And 3, part of this is an example. My son is a 10-year-old 5th grader. He is in school learning. That is the best place for him. When we've been remote, he gets on at 7:30, he does his work. That's my rule. You check in, you join live classes. When he's in the classroom, his teachers, God love them. God love every teacher in this room right now because they are worn so thin. His teachers are spending their time catching every student up who hasn't checked in, who hasn't done their work. And do you want to know what my 10-year-old student is doing? He's watching YouTube. So if we increase our class sizes, take away teachers, is my son still going to be sitting alongside of a wall watching YouTube because students aren't participating, aren't doing their work, and aren't on pace with everybody else? And what is the proposed solution for students like my son who should be pushed farther, who should be given better opportunities, because I heard those were taken away? I want to hear how you're going to better my son's life, my daughter's life, because they're working as hard as they can, and their teachers can't take on any more. Thank you.
Ms. Bender, thank you for your comment, and thank you for your concern for students and the education and the merger. Obviously, the feasibility study gives us very much options. What we just outlined, the feasibility study obviously does not outline how to handle a pandemic. I mean, it's ever evolving. We live it, breathe it every day, along with administration. So thank you for your comment.
I'll follow up, Kylie, but I had to write mine down because I have a lot to say. My name is Wendy Simmers. My kids attend Upper Dauphin Area School District. They're both in the high school. So to follow up on Kylie's thing, I understand there is a lot of students that are failing right now because of the remote education. My thoughts are, shouldn't we be worrying about educating these kids instead of worrying about a school merge that isn't quite necessary for Upper Dauphin yet? I think the education part really needs to be in effect. The kids that are failing in Upper Dauphin is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what Millersburg has, but Upper Dauphin's failing rate right now is embarrassing. As a taxpayer in UDA district without a child in the district, I have a child, but I'm saying if somebody didn't. What is a UDA taxpayer gaining besides higher taxes and the Millersburg taxes go down? I'd like to know that. Also, I've watched the last meeting of what new classes could be offered to UDA, and I think I really only saw driver's education. Would that be a fair statement? Also, I have student taking welding class this year, and I understand that UDA next year is trying to get a bigger and better UDA welding program. So my question is, If UDA is taking these initiatives to better and start new programs of what we already have, what do we need Millersburg for? If we're going to truly start this and we're looking into a welding program, I think we're doing fine. We just need to continue to build the programs that Upper Dauphin has. And also, both superintendents are in multi-year contracts. From what I understand, I remember Millersburg got a multi-year contract, and so did Mr. Shea just recently. So if the merge happens, do we have to buy one of those superintendents out of their contract? And if so, was that amount of a buyout in the first year's savings that was presented on the last thing? I know Price addressed about the cost savings for first year, and you kept saying, I need to see what year 2, 3, and 4. So I want to know, will there be a buyout for a superintendent, and will that price tag was that price tag in the first year cost savings? I'll follow up on what one of the Millersburg people said. I moved to the UDA district before my kids started school. I chose UDA. I did not choose Millersburg. Now is not the time for this merge. We need to focus on our education for our kids. That's it. Thank you.
Ms. Simmers, thank you. Just clarifying, taxes in the feasibility, Upper Dauphin's taxes would stay flat, and indeed Millersburg's would decrease to the current Upper Dauphin millage rate. Classes, there are more offerings than just driver ed. You can refer to the feasibility study. The welding class, that is Upper Dauphin, and Upper Dauphin is looking to establish that. And then as for the superintendent's multi-year contracts, that's a personnel matter. I can't discuss that in public. However, the feasibility study does have an administration team that is outlined with administrative dollars. That is something to, that you can look at that in the feasibility study. Thank you for your comment, and I do thank you for your concern for your district.
Hello, I am Bryson Minnick. I am a student of and resident of the Millersburg Area School District. And I'm coming up here to kind of follow up on some of the other things people have said as I see them. First of all, I would like to point out that while UDA might not be getting much in the way of curriculum, me as a Millersburg student, I definitely would, and my classmates definitely would. We would benefit from this, and I feel like that people have to realize that just because it doesn't benefit the students in one school district, that it benefits the students from another. And I believe that these boards have to take that into consideration when they're choosing what's best for both student bodies. Okay. I had personally looked at doing some of the advanced science courses that are only offered at Upper Dauphin, that we have a program to allow students to go to Upper Dauphin to do. And I decided against it because it wouldn't work with my schedule. I had to compromise doing something that I may have enjoyed more and I may have got more out of because it didn't work with the other things I wanted to do in my schedule, which probably wouldn't have been a problem if I went to Upper Dauphin. And also, when people are talking about class sizes, people have to realize, and school board members have to realize what they really mean by small class sizes. I have worked with a teacher who had 2 students in a required class to graduate. Is that our school district working at peak efficiency for its students? I love the personal education we get at Millersburg, and I know students from Upper Dauphin who love the personal education they get from their teachers. But is it worth it to have an entire 45-minute block of a teacher's day be taken up teaching 2 students when they could be teaching an entire class of 20? And regarding Lankerville, I would also like to point out that if we don't merge, we have to do something about Lankerville. We don't have to just take into consideration what we will be paying to change the buildings for the merger. We have to take into consideration what we will have to do to save Lankerville or find another elementary school. There is so many problems that we would need to fix with Lankerville Elementary School at this point that it may cost more money to fix Lankerville than to renovate more classrooms in what would become the new elementary school. And I think everybody speaking tonight and all of the board members need to really take that in consideration when they're making our decisions. So, I am in favor of this merger. Thank you.
He's really not a plant, just so everybody knows. Thank you, Bryson, for your comments.
Good evening. My name's Terry Kohler. I live in Washington Township. I have 2 children in the Upper Dauphin area, currently in the Upper Dauphin area school district, one in the middle school, one in the high school. And this merger has weighed on my mind since the onset. And I reached out and I talked to one of the school board members and had some discussions with that person. And after my discussions with him, I have some questions that I really think need answered. And some of it looks at the financials. And it goes back to, one of my questions is, in the PEL reports, they only showed a 1-year combination for the financials. But yet, when they did the projections for the individual districts, they used 5-year numbers. So why didn't we go, tit for tat there? We should have used 5 years the whole way through to see where we're at, instead of just 1 year for a merged district. And a follow-up to that is, did Upper Dauphin do any kind of financial projections past the first year? And if they did do that, what do those numbers look like for me as a taxpayer? Because that's what I'm concerned with at the end of the day, a good education for my children and, my taxes. Further questions, I think Ms. Simmers kind of hit on, and I think Price answered. I'm asking, are residents of the Upper Dauphin going to see a tax reduction with the proposed merger? And I think Price answered that. Millersburg is probably going to see a tax reduction. Upper Dauphin, we're going to stay stagnant. Their taxes are going to come down. Also, Upper Dauphin Board, did you guys talk to anybody outside of the PEL to get their opinions of the possible merger? And if we did, what was their opinion of the merger, and did it make sense to them in reference to the PEL study? One thing I don't remember seeing, and we watched the last meeting remotely, are there any projected one-time costs to the merger? What are those numbers? Do we know? Is the state going to offset that, or is it going to be up to us from the taxpayers from the 2 school districts to pick up the burden of those costs, those one-time costs? And how much would we get from the state to offset those costs? And I guess the other thing near and dear to my heart is, my kids love their teachers. From elementary school up through, I have one in the high school, her first year. Yeah, my kids are remote. For personal and family reasons, we had to do that this year. But they love their teachers. And I think we have a lot of good young teachers in the Upper Dauphin School District that are very passionate and very good with the kids. We have a lot of very good seasoned teachers in our school district. But I think at the end of the day, there's a teacher reduction here. And I don't want to see our good teachers leaving. because we have some really good teachers, but that's what it may come down to. And my kids love the young teachers, from elementary school the whole way up. So I think that's something that we really need to keep in mind, that one-on-one relationship that our students have with these teachers. You know, that's something that, to me, that should weigh on me as the person making the decision. You know, I assume if the merger doesn't go through, if the boards decide right now is not the right time, we would keep the co-op in place for the sports. I would assume that would be factual, because I know that's something that, you know, sports are near and dear to a lot of people. I care about education, but I also care about the kids, you know, getting out, being active and in sports. And then the other one, I remember seeing this last year at the one meeting, the PEL put it up, where they talked about the merged board. Because right now it's 9 and 9, and then through election cycles it gets slimmed down, that I think it comes down to 9. Upper Dauphin currently, if I have it right, goes by zones based on population. How would those zones break down? Because my concern is, I don't want to sound rude or irritate anybody here, but could Upper Dauphin stand to have less people representing our area on the new school board? And, you know, because there's some big, you know, I don't know what Millersburg's population is, or Upper Paxton Township or anything like that, but that's something I think our school board needs to keep in mind when they're making their vote. What's the school board makeup going to look like? Because, you know, I want to, you know, keep our kids here, and I want our people, I think our board's done a very good job with the money. You've been very thrifty with our tax dollars, and I appreciate that. And I know when I went to Millersburg, when the PEL and they had the first public comment down there, one of the former board members from the Millersburg School Board got up and spoke, and he said part of the reason they were where they were because they didn't invest back into the Lankerville Elementary School the way they should have through the years. That's all I have to say, and thank you all for your time.
Mr. Kohler, thank you. You have a bunch of questions. Hopefully I can at least comment on some of them. First, one-year projection and feasibility study. Multi-year projection and feasibility study was really contingent on what is the curriculum. So in the feasibility study, unable to go out with a multi-year projection because it's dependent on the board, the school district's decision on what the curriculum would be, what level of what we would do to do a multi-year projection. You asked, has Upper Dauphin do a multi-year projection? We do it. We don't not only look out 1 year, 2 year, we look out 10 years, and we make sure that we are fiscally responsible and plan accordingly for that. So I hope I answered that question. You did answer your own tax question. You asked, did we reach out to third parties, Upper Dauphin, third parties? Obviously, you know, we have our own accountant that does an audit. We have our solicitor and various others. We have had conversations. Obviously, they're third parties. It's the board's decision in regards to the merge or no merge. One-time cost, they are yet to be determined. We have an idea. In the past, where school districts have merged, there was some grant money available from the state to help assist that. That is what has happened in the past. Doesn't mean it would happen in this case. As for the sports co-op, so far to date, our sports co-op has been effective, and I think it's been beneficial. I thought we had a relatively good football season as one of the first sports to go. I would see why, if we do choose not to merge, I would see why not. Why would that would not continue? I think it's a benefit to both districts. Board configuration. You are correct. Upper Dauphin is by regions. Millersburg's at large. We had tasked the solicitors from both districts to come up with a recommendation that we could go to the state to get approved. There is a process to get regions approved so the population is represented appropriately by the board seats. So that is an action or a task that is, the wheels are already turning, if you will. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Taryn Morgan. I am a resident and a parent in the Upper Dauphin Area School District. I have a lot of concerns regarding this merger, and I have a lot of questions that hopefully can be answered. So, first, the enhancing. As I read through the study and the reports and everything that was put online, the term enhancing was everywhere. We're enhancing programs, we're enhancing opportunities for our students, but other than a few extra courses, I didn't really see how exactly those enhancements are going to happen or specifically what they're going to be. There was a section regarding curriculum enhancement, but other than adding courses, there were really no details on that. So I would like to know specifically how we are going to enhance. Specifically when we are also taking away staff. That's a concern of mine. In addition, or in relation to staff, I believe it was 21 jobs that will be gone if this merger happens, which is a concern because that loss of staff includes or leads to increased class sizes, which is at the lower levels, concerning. Currently, based on the numbers that were provided for Upper Dauphin specifically, because I don't know how many classrooms at each grade level Millersburg has, but based on the numbers that were shared, in our current kindergarten, or the numbers, kindergarten currently sits at 14 students in a classroom, and the projected numbers are 19. In a kindergarten setting, that's a huge fluctuation, especially when we have so many students coming in at that grade level not fully prepared. That's a lot of one-on-one time taken away from those students that genuinely need it. So that is a concern. One of my questions at the meeting last year when the Phase 1 study was presented was about transportation. My kids, we live in Carsonville, and everyone seems to forget about us over the mountain, but my kids sit on a bus right now for almost an hour, which is crazy to me to drive from Carsonville to Loyalton. So my concern is, how long is that bus ride going to be when they have to go from Carsonville to Millersburg? And how long is that bus ride going to be for those Millersburg kids that have to come all the way to Loyalton? That's a long haul, especially for young elementary age students. So I would like to know what specifically the transportation is going to look like. Another concern is technology. Am I not on? Is that better? Okay. Technology is another concern. Upper Dauphin is currently 1-to-1 K through 12 with Apple, and Millersburg, from my understanding, is not. So what is the plan to, merge that technology? How is that going to change? How is that technology going to be supported? Because my kids use that technology daily, and if we're going to continue to provide that one-to-one, we need to have a solid plan for support. One of the things mentioned in the PowerPoint slides that I saw online was that outside support services will be returning. What are they specifically? What are those outside support systems? And it also said that it will provide a savings to taxpayers. What is that savings? Because based on the information that has been shared, Upper Dauphin's taxes are not going down. So unless my taxes are decreasing, I don't necessarily see that as a genuine savings. And let me see. I think that's it. Last, just the statement, the improvement of programs more efficiently with a reduction in cost savings of 21 teaching positions. If you could please clarify that statement as well. Thank you.
So going down your questions again, thank you, Mrs. Morgan. Enhancement, education, more details. Obviously, that's something that needs to be fleshed out to get to the granular detail level. We're looking at the curriculum offering, the enhancements and details. That obviously that will come later. Increased class size, yes, the feasibility did state increased class sizes. However, those increased class sizes are very comparable to districts that are our size. Transportation, a very thorough transportation study was done by the Pennsylvania Economy League, and as he mentioned, it's a very entry-level, first pass transportation with, I believe, 95% of the students being transported to the schools less than 60 minutes, obviously, but that is looking at, not going into details of looking at making van runs as we do today to shorten those times for the outlying residents. But please reference the transportation study. It's very informative in the various areas geographically, et cetera. As for technology, you are correct. Upper Dauphin is an Apple school. Millersburg is a Chrome school. Obviously, they're two different technology based. That'll be worked out later. There are benefits of having multiple platforms. Kids learn multiple platforms while in school. There is a benefit for that, but obviously it's yet to be determined. I mean, I'm speculating there. I shouldn't have made a comment, but I'm just trying to answer your question and be honest. Outside support service returning, that was a probable. That isn't a yes. That was a probable in the feasibility study of an opportunity to ease the financial stress on the districts. So that was in the feasibility, it said a probable, a potential savings depending on the student count and the ability to make it financially work for the district. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sarah Folkrode, and I'm a high school student at the Upper Dauphin Area High School, and I live in the Elizabethville borough. My question pertains to the effect of the pandemic on educational styles during this time and how that might affect the merger. So in my community, I've heard many classmates and just members in general, parents, friends, state that Upper Dauphin is more financially stable than Millersburg and argue that the merger mainly benefits Millersburg. I'm just saying that objectively as like observing from members of my community. My question is, what comprehensive plan does the Upper Dauphin Area School District, Millersburg School District, or the merger committee have as far as remote education goes post-pandemic or next year? And how do they think that could affect the merger? Because to my understanding, when an Upper Dauphin student goes to an alternative cyber school, not just remote, but opts out for cyber school, the district loses multiple thousands of dollars for that student in funding. And I fear that with what's going on right now with the remote education option, a lot of students are accustomed to that now and are used to learning virtually and would like that to continue. And I'm just wondering what plan the districts have for remote education in the future, because I would think that the availability of it could affect the amount of students attending the schools, which would in turn affect the, I guess you could say, the class sizes and the financial stabilities of the school with students leaving. Like, I don't really know all the data about that, how much that would financially affect the school, but I do know there are a lot of kids so far who have decided to go cyber, like entirely away from Upper Dauphin to other cyber charter schools, and I know the school loses a lot of money for that, and it's just my concern that, you know, whether or not there's a stable plan for that, because I feel it could have a major impact on the merger for both school districts involved. So that's it. Thank you.
Ms. Falkroad, thank you very much for your comments and concerns. Obviously, post-pandemic, there's a lot of unknowns. As for the delivery of remote learning by Upper Dauphin is a question that we don't know the answer yet. So it's obviously a discussion, but we don't know the answer yet. But thank you, and thank you for your comment and your looking for the future for Upper Dauphin. I appreciate that.
Test 1, 2. Testing. Test. Second to 3.
Crystal Rumberger, Millersburg School District, Upper Paxton Township, and I apologize if I cry getting through this. I have 2 children in this district that I care. I went to Upper Dauphin, so seems like it makes sense, but my family is at Lankerville. So it is hard. It's hard because I'm in the classroom day to day. I see what goes on in the classroom day to day. And my concern is with bigger class sizes that we're not going to have enough help. We're getting rid of people instead of adding people, and these kids are emotionally drained. And I just fear that if we have bigger class sizes, that's going to affect them. So my also question I have is, and I guess I was really perplexed too, that we're still, I agree with Kylie, why are we even talking merger when we have so many kids? We lost a student at our middle school this year. Why are we not doing emotional help for these kids? My heart is the kids, not my own kids. My heart, and if you all know me, my heart, I love my children dearly, but my heart is for the kids who don't have a parent like me, who can fight for them, who can stand up for them when nobody else does. That is my heart. And my last question is, now with the ESSR funding that I found on the Department of Education website, that Millersburg is getting relief of $891,000 and Upper Dauphin is getting $1.9 million. Does that affect the merger? Is that money in there at all? Does that make a difference whether we merge or not? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mrs. Rumberger. The only thing that I can really say, kind of with those funds are new and not recurring. So I don't know, both districts are just finding out about them, so they're gonna have to figure out how they can incorporate them. But I think the big thing to know is I don't think there's an expectation that they're recurring at this point. And thank you for your other concerns as well.
Hello, my name is Eli Shutt. I'm a resident of the Millersburg Borough. I have a few questions. Number one, if a merger is approved, which school district would bear the cost if Lankerville would need to be closed for renovations? Like if the roof would have a snafu or the boiler would go kaput. If it would happen during the 2021-2022 school year, So after, if you would go ahead and approve a merger, but yet before we actually merge as districts? And also, where would we put the students? My second question, if mental health issues are rampant, and the curriculum presentation at the last meeting stated that there will be enhanced school counselor supports, why is there a guidance counselor position being put on the list of proposed cuts? My third question, if cutting 40-ish positions from a merged school district, that's significant. I would argue that this will have a negative impact on our community and other revenue sources. How many or what percentage of the proposed 40-ish cuts are residents of either district of either Millersburg or Upper Dauphin Area School District, and what will this do to the local tax bases? And also, how can, again, a reduction of such a number of people go ahead and improve educational opportunities for students? My fourth question, there has been a great deal of discussion about cost. Has anyone considered the additional cost of the collective bargaining agreements by subtracting that from the proposed savings that was presented at the last meeting? If so, what are those anticipated savings as part of a merged district? And then my last question, it's a two-part question about logistics, the high school here being merged, since my young individuals will be coming here in the near future potentially. The reality of the master schedule is that it doesn't work perfectly due to the logistical concerns like the number of teachers available, teacher availability during specific periods, and the nature of the master schedule. Not all students are scheduled for all the courses that they place on their course selection sheets from the program of studies. My question actually is, or my series of questions is, what is Millersburg's current percentage for the placement for students based upon their course selection sheets? What is Upper Dauphin's current percentage of the placement for students based upon their course selection sheets? And what do the administrators feel will be the percentage for the placement sheets when the students are going to be selected from potentially a merged district? So we got a whole host of potential electives that students could choose from, but what's the likelihood that they'll get those in a merged district? And also, as a follow-up to that, the high school building, again, is not going to be big enough, I do believe, to house 600 plus proposed students for the 2022-2023 school year. Has there been any thought given to the renovation of any, adding classrooms, adding lockers, or parking spaces? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Shutt, and your questions. You had a lot, and some of them are going to not be able to be answered tonight, obviously, but that would probably be part of what ends up in the FAQ. But yeah, so like the questions about where students would go, that would be obviously be worked out by the administrations, and if we have any information on that, we can get that to you in the FAQ. The teachers, that all kind of comes later once the decisions are made. Like, everything we've seen so far is preliminary. There's nothing final. So what things look like would be worked out at that point. So I can't really say there. Same thing with the collective bargaining agreement. We don't know what that would look like until it's actually worked through, which will be happening in the future. And yeah, your stuff about placement of students in the district, that would have to come from the administrations. So thank you, though, for all your questions.
Hello, my name is Missy Rothermel. I'm a Upper Paxton resident. I have 2 children in the Millersburg School District. One who will graduate most likely before all of this takes effect, but I have a up-and-coming middle schooler who, if anybody else is a parent of boys, you know how difficult schoolwork is. I have a bunch of different questions. First, though, just to kind of recap what some others have said in regards to class size. The projections, it looks like, according to the study, shows a significant drop-off of, I don't know, without doing the math, a couple hundred enrollees over the next 10 years. How does that impact the current projected staff cuts? Everybody's gung-ho to raise what seems to be gung-ho is to raise the class size to accommodate the blending of both districts, but Do we have to eliminate all of those teachers? Like the young student from Upper Dauphin had mentioned, you know, is there going to be an option to do remote learning? Can some of those in-classroom positions be slid into a remote curriculum instruction only? So how much of that has been really truly looked at? Piggybacking off of Mr. Shutt's concerns with electives and what that placement for courses looks like, you know, it looked to me at first glance in the presentation, we took all of Millersburg and all of Upper Dauphin and said, here's what the combined course category, the catalog will look like. Okay, great. Millersburg gets some extra things. Upper Dauphin, maybe not so much. At the end of the day, you're not losing anything. And I think that's very important to realize and remember that maybe you're not gaining a whole bunch, but you're not losing. So your students are still going to be competitive in that respect. So how does that fully translate? Like, what does that look like? So I have an honor student. What does an honor student schedule look like now with some of those extra enhanced classes that are going to be offered or hopefully honored or offered? And just to go a step farther, what do the electives look like then at that point? Where does music come in? Where does art come in? Where does shop in that, the welding program? And I don't know how your program works at Upper Dauphin. I hear wonderful things about the tech and the ag and all of that, and I think that's great. Anything that keeps the kids focused and learning and doing something better, and they can keep that education here in the community and make where we're living a better place, I think is just so tremendous. It speaks volumes. How many times do we hear, oh, well, I graduated and I left? We have friends that they love to brag, oh, well, we left the Valley. The Valley isn't worth it. The Valley is definitely worth it. Our kids are worth it. The people that are making these decisions are worth it. I would not want to trade places with any of you board members. You all should be commended for listening to all of us go on and on about it. Millersburg has a board member that's my neighbor, and we spend time in the front yard, and I say to him all the time, I don't understand, but I know things have to change. So what does that look like? Can we maybe over the next week before we vote on all of this say, here's what this career pathway schedule looks like. Here's what it looks like for a kid who wants to do all arts. And that brings me to my next point. What the heck are we doing with the music program? Everybody, when this all started, the co-op with the sports, it was wonderful, great. We're going to combine here. We're going to play football there. We're going to play soccer at Millersburg. But what happens to the kids that aren't athletic, who want a chance to perform and compete? What's going to happen to the 10% of the student body right now that is involved in the music program because they love Mr. Campbell? What's going to happen to them? Are they going to be allowed to be in sports and play in the band? You know, I know Upper Dauphin's capacity is a little bit different. Their competition, which again, kudos. Y'all are playing without your music. That's tremendous in itself too. But what happens to them? What happens to that 10% of the student body who, as Crystal Rumberger said, you don't belong and you feel like you have nowhere to turn to. And that's your safe place, and that's why you go to school every day. Because you have that teacher who, his door is always open, and Mrs. Slummer too. And I'm sure Mrs. Kramer is the same way. You know, these kids need to know that no matter where they are, that somebody's fighting for them. As a person who grew up in a district that went through a merger, I was fully on board for this, but right now, the lack of information that's truly in this last bit of the study, it scares me. Our kids need to know what a normal day is going to look like for them. Because right now, as many have said, they aren't having that right now with remote learning and the pandemic and having to adapt and teachers being stressed to the max. Where does that all come out? Hopefully you guys can answer that. Thank you.
Mrs. Rossermo, again, lots of very good questions, and I'm not going to be able to answer all of them today. But we can obviously try to put some more information together after this as well. I think remote learning, you know, that's something that both districts are going to have to look at, and I think as a merged district would have to look at as well. And so that's something that could change, and I see that as a potential growth area in a merged district. So we'll see, but we are aware. There was a previous comment about it as well, about the need for it, and I think both boards and both administrations realize there's a need for it. So we will continue to look at that. I don't know that they're going to that the administrations are going to be able to give you a real good look at what a schedule looks like yet, because everything until things really happen, it's really hard to say what that stuff's going to look like. So, but we can see what they can do. And music program, I understand your passion and your daughter's passion for it as well. And I think COVID kind of messed that up this year. I think there were some good thoughts about what was going to start to happen there. So I think that's a stay tuned. As Ms. Kramer and Mr. Campbell can kind of start to work together, hopefully in the future a little more, and we can really see what that looks like. But it's definitely a concern. It's not something that's being forgotten for sure. And we'll try and get some of the other answers as well. Thank you.
Just a reminder, when you do come up, please step up to the mic, speak loudly, just so the folks watching at home can hear you. So just a reminder when you do so.
Hi, Todd Smeltz. I'm a resident in the Upper Dauphin Area School District. One of my biggest concerns since the beginning of the merger talks was the fact that there's 2 high schools that are merging into one, but yet all of the other buildings, K to 8, there's currently 4 buildings, and after the merger there's 4 buildings, but yet we're putting 2 high schools into one building, and yet that's where many of the electives that students wish to pursue, that's where they're pursuing their interests. So I'm just wondering what the logistics are with putting both of those buildings together and still having a lot of options for the students to choose from. That was one of my concerns. Along with that, with putting 2 buildings into one, the capacity of classrooms, I think we're looking at it as every classroom is going to be occupied with a full classroom of students every period of the day, which also means that teachers are sharing classrooms, and that brings logistics into it when you're trying to plan lessons, and especially with remote learning now, you're trying to record a lesson. Is there any thought process going into that where is there going to be a private space, because I'm not sure where that would be, where a teacher could go to do their lesson planning that's so much different than it was 30 years ago, where at that time teachers did share classrooms and planning, but we didn't have remote learning into that mix. A lot of things have changed in teaching strategies since then, and having your classroom for planning is actually pretty important. I didn't have this concern until I just heard the answer to the technology a little while ago, with having multiple platforms in one district. So Millersburg bringing Chromebooks, Upper Dauphin bringing iPads. Students are pretty tech savvy when it comes to jumping from one platform to another. I'm not sure how that's working, are you talking about having both platforms in the same place, or are you talking about having both platforms in different levels? So I'm imagining, I can't imagine half the students having Chromebooks and half the students having iPads in the same place, in the same classroom, but that may not be, may not have that visual correct. And I guess my final concern is there just seems to be a lot of uncertainties. I realize that we can't know everything going into it, and there's going to be some things that you just can't have definites on. But it seems like we have more uncertainties right now than what we have certainties, like as far as what the programs are going to look like when we roll them out. And I don't think that can be hashed out in a week. So I'm not sure that the decision maybe should be rushed into, and that's just my perspective. And I'm not saying one way or another. I'm not for or against the merger. I'm looking at it both ways to try to make that decision for myself. And I'm having trouble making that decision because I don't have enough answers that if I was sitting on the board, I'm not sure I could say yes or no, because I don't think I have enough information at this point to make that decision, okay? And that's just my perspective, all right? And I want everybody to know I'm talking as an individual here. I hold many roles in the community. I'm not representing anybody but my own perspective on this. These are my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Smeltz, especially for that last statement, speaking as an individual. Anyways, to answer your question, 2 high schools into 1. As the architect from the Economy League said, initially, potentially years 1, 2 of the merger, it will be tight in the high school. He said it's doable, but it's going to be tight. So that was the economy's guidance to the board, and in the feasibility study, it's doable but tight. And that addresses your classroom capacity and whatnot. We probably have to be a little bit creative with that, but it's doable but tight. Remote learning, it's interesting, we hear this pandemic continue to come back up into comments and questions. I'll be honest with you, that did put a wrinkle in things and opened up opportunities and different thinking of how education is being delivered, obviously this year, but in future years. So that is definitely another wrinkle that could impact how we educate our kids going forward. Clarify on the multiple technology solutions across the district. Again, I think I clarified myself and made a statement. I just shouldn't have made that statement, but I'm sure there's much smarter people than me and educators that can find a way to leverage those investments for our students to actually make them better students, better learners, better individuals in the future. That doesn't mean it's the answer, but there are pros and cons to having multiple platforms in a district. I would imagine, and here again, I see Mr. Shade back there cringing. I would imagine we're not going to have we're not going to have a Chrome and Apple in a high school. I imagine we'd have to pick one by school. So again, they're probably cringing, but it's pure speculation, Mr. Smeltz, but I thought I needed to address that comment. Certainties, uncertainties, yes, always. With change, there's always uncertainties. I can promise you one thing, there's always one certainty in this all, is change will always happen. And there will be uncertainties with the change, and you work through those. But to your making this very important decision, you would love to have as many certainties outlined prior to making that decision. But there will be uncertainties. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Kelly Zeiters, and I live in Millersburg Borough. So I have a few different things. The first one is I'm really irritated, and I know there's several others that are, that when we asked for option 3, they came back with all the negative things about it, but nothing positive, like what could be good about option 3. Option 3 gave each town an elementary school. We were told that wasn't a good idea. How isn't that a good idea? Yes, it costs more money and everything, but if you go to the other side of the mountain, that's how all the schools are. Next, I have a child with an IEP. Cutting teachers would mean also cutting special ed teachers, but what about the bonds that they have with those special ed teachers? That is very, very important for a child with an IEP. I fear any child with an IEP or not, they're going to lose the bonds they have with their teachers. They're going to give up on their schooling. They're going to fall through the cracks. They're going to fall behind. Pretty much the bottom line with that is we stayed in the valley because of the small districts. How does this affect the VOTEC kids as far as transportation goes? Right now we take them to our local high schools and they're bused down, or they're bused to Halifax and then down. I don't have time as a Millersburg resident to drive my kid to Upper Dauphin in the morning and then go to work. I do have time to take him to Millersburg and then go to work, but how's that going to affect all of that? That is it.
Mrs. Iyer, thank you for your comments and your question. I think and again, can't answer all this, the issue with transportation, that was talked about in the study, and the specifics of how it would work for VOTEC, that would be something that would have to come, through the process after a merger vote, if there's a merger. So those types of things I think could be worked out, would be worked out, just have not been worked out yet. And I think, take a look at the proposal or the presentations on, special ed and what that's going to look like. There's more information in the presentations on that as well. But yeah, again, I think, Pal gave us information about the different options as kind of was requested, which is kind of where we're going down, why we're having these discussions tonight. So thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name is Claire Rothmel. I'm a student at Millersburg. I just have one quick question regarding class sizes. I know right now a big problem for a lot of our teachers at least is not having rooms regarding the 6 feet social distancing with COVID. And since, we obviously don't know how that's going to go, and if we continue with this merger, that might be something I'm not sure if the boards have looked into. But if we have an increased class size, how will we also then address the distancing that we need to keep in mind? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rothmel. That is definitely a concern. No one obviously saw it coming, but it is something the administrations are going to have to work through to figure out how that could work. Hopefully we're not still maintaining the 6 foot of separation in 2 years, but that is something they need to think about for sure. Thank you.
Any further comments, questions that the public, anyone would like to make? Okay, seeing none. Based on tonight's questions, comments, the administration will be tasked to put together a FAQ document based on tonight's themes and answer the questions that we are able to answer at this time. I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you for having interest in our communities, our kids, our teachers, whatnot. Thank you. I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate the turnout of this evening's meeting. Our school districts want to make a decision in the best interest of our students in our communities. I always say for our board, our number one priority is provide the best possible education in a safe, healthy environment. That's priority one, and I won't waver from that. So with that being said, your feedback is very important. That's why we had this meeting tonight, because we wanted to hear from you all. And as we make this decision, we'll take everything you've said tonight into consideration when we vote. As mentioned earlier, March 15th at the Millersburg High School Auditorium at 7 p.m., we will, at this point in time, we will be putting forth a vote to merge or not to merge. So with that said, good night. Thank you all very much for coming. And with that being said, could I have a motion to adjourn with no new business to follow? Motion by Mr. Rothmel, second by Ms. Willard Reed. All in favor say aye. Any nays? All right, thank you folks again. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your interest and concern on our district. I really do appreciate it. Have a good night. Stay safe, stay healthy, and a safe trip home.